ever met someone who looked at exactly the same situation as you and somehow came to a completely different conclusion? Maybe you both heard the same conversation, saw the same event, experienced the same situation, but somehow you walked away seeing something completely different. And sometimes it can feel confusing. You might think, how can they not see this? Or why would they think that way? But what if the answer isn't that one person is smarter or that one person is being unreasonable? What if their mind simply is paying attention to different things? This is the idea behind cognitive functions, the idea that underneath our personality, there are different mental processes that influence what we notice, what we focus on, and how we make decisions, and how we understand the world around us. And honestly, learning about cognitive functions completely changed the way I understand people, because before I discovered this framework, I often found myself asking, why would someone do that? Why would someone think that way? How could they possibly come to that conclusion? But cognitive functions encourage us to ask a different question. Not why are they wrong, but what is their mind naturally paying attention to that I might be missing? And that is a much more interesting question. In the previous episodes, we started building the foundations of personality. We explored why personality matters and why understanding ourselves and others can help us build better relationships and make sense of human differences. But today, we're moving into one of the most fascinating parts of personality theory, the idea that there are different ways minds naturally interact with reality. Today, we're going to explore the 8 cognitive functions. By the end of this episode, you'll understand what the 8 functions are, why there are 8 instead of just 4, how they are connected, and why they provide such a useful framework for understanding different ways of thinking. Now, before we jump into the 8 functions themselves, we need to go back to the beginning, because these ideas didn't start with personality tests. They began with a question. A question asked by Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung over 100 years ago. Carl Jung was interested in understanding something he kept observing in his work with people. He noticed that 2 people could be equally intelligent, equally capable, and equally motivated, but still approach life in completely different ways. One person might naturally focus on what is happening right now, the details, the facts, the experience in front of them. And another person might immediately start looking for patterns, for possibilities, connections, what something could mean. One person might make decisions by asking, what is the most logical solution? Another might ask, what is the impact this will have on people? And Jung wondered, why? Why do people naturally seem to organize information and make decisions in different ways? Now this is an important point. Jung wasn't saying that people are incapable of using different ways of thinking. We're all capable of observing details. We're all capable of seeing possibilities. We're all capable of analyzing problems, and we're all capable of considering values and emotions. The difference is not ability, the difference is preference. Think about something simple. Most people have a hand they naturally prefer to write with. I'm right-handed. You can technically use both hands, but one usually feels more natural. It requires less effort. It feels more automatic. Jung believed minds work in a similar way. We have different mental processes available to us, but some processes feel more natural and automatic than others. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings about cognitive functions. They are not measuring intelligence. They are not measuring how mature someone is. They are not saying one function is better than another. A person who uses thinking is not automatically smarter. A person who uses feeling is not automatically more emotional. A person who uses intuition is not automatically more creative. And a person who uses sensing is not automatically more practical. These functions simply describe different ways of processing information, different ways of noticing, different ways of deciding, different ways of experiencing the world. So, if cognitive functions are preferred mental processes, what exactly are these processes? Interestingly, Jung believed that there were 4 fundamental ways we interact with information, 4 basic mental processes. They are sensing, intuition, thinking, and feeling. Everything we are about to explore, all 8 cognitive functions, comes from these 4 basic processes. Now, before we go any further, there's something important to understand. These words can be a little misleading. When we hear the word thinking, we might assume that means someone is intelligent. When we hear the word feeling, we might assume that means someone is emotional. When we hear the word sensing, we might assume that means someone is more practical. And when we hear the word intuition, we might assume that means someone has some kind of special ability to predict the future. That is not what Jung meant. These are simply names that describe different ways of interacting with information. Let's start with sensing. Sensing is about paying attention to what is actually present, what can be observed, what can be experienced, the details of reality. A person who naturally favors sensing may pay attention to what is happening around them right now. They may notice details that other people overlook. They may remember experiences, facts, and specific information. Sensing asks, what is happening? What do I know from experience? What information is directly available to me? Then we have intuition. If sensing focuses on what is here, intuition focuses on what could be. Intuition looks beyond the obvious. It searches for patterns, connections, possibilities, meaning. A person who naturally favors intuition may find themselves asking, where could this lead? What does this remind me of? What is the bigger picture here? Intuition asks, what could this mean? Now, these 2 processes are both ways of gathering information. They are sometimes called the perceiving functions because they influence how we take in the world around us. Sensing gathers information through what is experienced. Intuition gathers information through patterns and possibilities. The other 2 processes are about making decisions, thinking and feeling. And again, these names can be misunderstood. Thinking does not mean someone has more intelligence. Feeling does not mean someone is controlled by emotions. They describe different ways of evaluating information. Thinking asks, what makes sense? What is logically consistent? What principles or systems apply here? A person who naturally favors thinking may focus on accuracy, reasoning, and finding solutions. Feeling asks, what matters? What impact will this have? What aligns with my values? A person who naturally favors feeling may focus on meaning, relationships, and what is important to people. So now we have our 4 basic processes. Sensing, how do I take in what is real? Intuition, how do I recognize patterns and possibilities? Thinking, how do I evaluate logic and consistency? Feeling, how do I evaluate values and importance? And this is where Jung's model becomes really interesting because these 4 processes are not the whole story. Jung noticed that each of these processes could appear in different ways. The same basic processes could be directed outward towards the external world or inward towards the inner world. Sensing becomes extroverted sensing and introverted sensing. Intuition becomes extroverted intuition and introverted intuition. Thinking becomes extroverted thinking and introverted thinking. Feeling becomes extroverted feeling and introverted feeling. And this is where the 8 cognitive functions come from. Not 8 random personality traits, not 8 different types of people, but 4 basic mental processes, each expressed in 2 different directions. Now, I want to pause here because this idea is really important. When we hear the words introverted and extroverted, many people immediately think about social energy. They think an introvert is quiet, An extrovert is outgoing. And while those ideas can sometimes be related to personality, that is not what we were talking about here. In cognitive functions, introversion and extroversion describe where the process is primarily orientated. Is it focused more on the external world, or is it focused more on an internal framework? For example, extroverted thinking and introverted thinking are both thinking. They both care about logic, but they approach logic differently. Extroverted thinking is often concerned with organizing the external world, creating systems, finding efficient methods, making things work. Introverted thinking is often concerned with refining internal understanding, building accurate models, understanding how things fit together. The same applies to the other functions, extroverted sensing and introverted sensing, both sensing. Extroverted intuition and introverted intuition are both intuition. Extroverted feeling and introverted feeling are both feeling. The core process is the same, the direction is different. So if we put everything together, we get 8 cognitive functions. Sensing, extroverted sensing or S, introverted sensing or SI. Intuition, extroverted intuition or NE, introverted intuition or NI. Thinking, extroverted thinking or T, introverted thinking or TI. Feeling, extroverted feeling or FE, introverted feeling or FI. And if those names sound like a lot right now, don't worry, you are not expected to memorize them yet. The goal of this episode is not to turn you into an expert overnight. The goal is simply to give you the map, because once you understand the map, the individual functions start to make much more sense. So now that we understand where the 8 cognitive functions come from, let's take a closer look at each one, not as 8 complicated labels, but as 8 different ways the human mind can naturally interact with reality. So now, let's the 8 cognitive functions. And remember, these are not 8 different personalities. They are 8 different ways the mind can naturally pay attention to information and make sense of the world. Let's begin with the 2 sensing functions. Extroverted sensing, SE. Extroverted sensing, or SE, is focused on the immediate experience of the present moment. It notices what is happening right now, the environment, the details, the opportunities that are directly in front of us. A person using extroverted sensing might naturally notice changes in their surroundings very quickly. They may respond easily to what is happening around them. They often enjoy engaging directly with life as it unfolds. SE asks, what is happening right now? Introverted sensing, or SI, also pays attention to reality, but rather than focusing primarily on the present moment, it compares the present with previous experience. It remembers, it references, it recognizes what is familiar. A person using introverted sensing might naturally notice, have I experienced something like this before? What worked last time? What details should I remember? SI asks, how does this compare with what I already know? So, while both functions are connected to reality, SE is often noticing what is happening now. SI is often noticing what connects to previous experience. Now, let's move to intuition. Extroverted intuition, or NE, is focused on possibilities. It naturally explores ideas, connections, alternatives. A person using extroverted intuition may hear one idea and immediately think of 5 more possibilities. They might enjoy brainstorming, exploring different perspectives, and asking, what else could this become? NE asks, what possibilities are available? Introverted intuition, or NI, is also focused on patterns, but instead of expanding outward into many possibilities, it often narrows inward toward a deeper insight. It looks for the underlying meaning the hidden pattern, the bigger picture. The person using introverted intuition may spend time connecting ideas together and suddenly something clicks. NI asks, what is the deeper pattern underneath this? So NE often expands outward, exploring many possibilities. NI often narrows inward, searching for the underlying meaning. Now we move into the decision-making functions, thinking and feeling. Extroverted thinking, or TE, focuses on organizing information in a way that works effectively in the external world. It asks, what is the most practical solution? What system will achieve this goal? What method produces the best result? A person using extroverted thinking may naturally create plans, structures, and processes. They often look for ways to make things more efficient. TE asks, what works? Introverted thinking, or TI. TI focuses on internal logical accuracy. It asks, does this actually make sense? These ideas consistent? How does this system work underneath? A person using introverted thinking may naturally analyze conceptually. They want to understand how things fit together, not just whether something works, but why it works. TI asks, is this logically consistent? So, TE often focuses on creating effective systems in the outside world. TI often focuses on creating accurate understanding internally. Finally, we come to the feeling functions. Extroverted feeling, or FE. This focuses on the emotional and relational environment. It notices, what does this situation mean for the people involved? How are others experiencing this? What helps create connection and harmony? A person using extroverted feeling may naturally pay attention to group dynamics and shared values. FE asks, how does this affect everyone? Introverted feeling, or FI, focuses on personal values and inner alignment. It asks, what feels true to me? What matters deeply? Does this align with my personal values? A person using introverted feeling may naturally focus on authenticity and staying connected to what they personally believe is important. FI asks, what feels true and meaningful to me? And then we have them, the 8 cognitive functions. SE, experiencing the present. SI, remembering what endures. NE, exploring possibilities. NI, seeing the underlying pattern. TE, organizing for effectiveness. TI, finding logical understanding. FE, connecting through shared values. FI, living from personal conviction. Now, if your brain feels like it has just been introduced to 8 completely new concepts, that is completely normal. These functions are not designed to be memorized like vocabulary words. They are designed to be understood through patterns. Over time, you'll start noticing them. You'll see why one person naturally looks for possibilities, while another naturally looks for proven experience. Why one person prioritizes efficiency, while another prioritizes personal values. Why one person searches for external agreement, while another searches for internal alignment. And this is where I think cognitive functions become genuinely fascinating, because they give us a language for something we've all experienced, that people are not simply being difficult or careless or unreasonable. Sometimes they are simply approaching reality from a different mental starting point. Imagine 8 people looking at the same landscape. One notices the details of the path. One remembers where they have walked before. One imagines where the path could lead. One sees the larger pattern of the landscape. One creates a plan for the journey. One studies how the map works. One considers who needs support along the way. And one reflects on what the journey means personally. The landscape is the same, but the perspective changes. And that is the beauty of cognitive functions. they don't just help us understand personality, they help us understand difference. In the next episodes, we're going to slow down and explore these functions individually, look at their strengths, their blind spots, how they appear in everyday life, and eventually how they combine to create the unique personality patterns we see in ourselves and others. If you enjoyed this episode, I hope you'll join me for the next part of the journey, because now that we understand the 8 cognitive functions, we can begin by exploring them one by one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.